Basically, I have like $150 in useful stuff and $1 billion in really fun but largely impractical music stuff. As you will know, Truefire sponsored this channel, but I wanted to just shout out that at the moment they're doing their best deal that they ever do, and a bit better. The All Access membership available for $79. All Access membership lasts a year. Basically, you can dip in and out of all of their courses on there, using players like Robin Ford, Andy Timmons, Tim Miller, etc, etc. Check out the link in the description if you're interested. I was watching LeonTodd, hey Leon if you're watching, who is somewhat similar to me, much more intelligent, I think taller, much better hair, but we both make videos on YouTube. We both like playing guitar, we both like playing legato, and he did this video talking about like the gear he actually uses all the time. Now I've made a video somewhat similar to that in the past as well, maybe a couple of times, because as people that demo stuff on YouTube or whatever, a lot of the time we'll be talking about pieces of gear that might be new, and that's kind of cool and a very nice position to be in. It seems at odds in my head to what a lot of other people experience, because a lot of other people obviously have to buy gear. However, actually, I've ended up buying a lot of gear still, I still do, and saw this on Reddit. I was reading up on the Chroma console, and I saw this comment. If by worth it you mean helpful for playing covers in wedding bands, etc., you can get there way easier and cheaper. It is, however, pretty fun. I love all that shit, like the blooper, microcosm, mood, Zoya, but when I really play, I guess, it's amp reverb, a Boss G7, an EP booster, and maybe a compressor or delay. Basically, I have like $150 in useful stuff and $1 billion in really fun but largely impractical music stuff. Doesn't matter, I'm not a big shot, just like making noise. That's from a chap called Musiquarium on Reddit. And I think that kind of jives with my way of looking at this stuff as well. And again, just thinking about, literally this morning I made a video about Rhett Scholl's new pedal board, and kind of what he's talking about there. You know, as Rhett, Leon, myself, we've all used modelers into FRFR Live. I think Leon's preferred mode of operation, because he's doing a lot of fly gigs and a lot of in-ear stuff, is FM9 or FM3. For me, because I run sound for my band, I can use an amp if I want to. And then Rhett, I think, is about to, it sounds like, sort of start touring his own stuff. And it sounds like, basically, for him, the amp is a really important part of his setup. For me, playing live, having an amp is really important as well. The kind of key takeaways for me, the essentials are actually way less than even I have. So my pedal board itself is actually pretty bare bones. It's an HX Stomp which does 2 delays and a tiny bit of reverb, 2 drive pedals. At the moment I'm kind of experimenting with something Novel's ODR-ish, and the 5-watt World Barber pedal, the bus. And recently I put a Novel's delay on there as well, and that has meant that I actually use the delays on the HX Stomp far less. And that's kind of it. Do you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't actually take that much gear to actually get through a gig. Now, the difference, I think, is about, so this thing that Rhett's doing, or in the past I've done some kind of solo guitar shows where it's like you're trying to make the guitar sound like more than just a guitar. And that is actually not what most gigs are like. I'd say most, I'm presuming most, like semi-pros to pros, are playing other people's music, 1. 2, you're not the focal point of the band anyway, and this is across like loads of pros, and it's something that you hear like Tom Bukovac and folks like that in Nashville. Like, these guys, when you hear them on records, you're just playing like a small part of a bigger thing. Do you know what I mean? Like, even their solo spots, it's not like super flashy or anything like that. It's kind of serving the song, which is this thing that we talk about a lot. But that is more or less what playing live is supposed to be like as well, when you're playing with wedding bands and stuff like that. There are moments in our set, there's like a lot of 80s stuff with loads of great guitar solos, which is fun to play. But still, for me, I kind of keep my effects set up really quite simple. Thing like, I did a video with this the other day, Plethora, and I think I'm going to have to revisit this, because like what I'm sort of missing here in a way is that, well, this is essentially covering the very bare bones of what you might need, and probably some extra, like the average gig, you know, a delay or 2, or a delay with a tap tempo, and a couple of drives, probably plenty, right? So, I don't know, do you feel the same about your rig? Are there some parts of it which are like, well, this is actually my kind of pool of useful gear, and then there's all this other stuff sort of peripheral to it that is like gas purchases? So something like a Chase Bliss Mood pedal, for instance, maybe you enjoy the way that pedal sounds and it's like a home thing. For me, like this HX Effects preset that I was using in the intro is super inspirational when I'm playing at home, but rarely do I do a gig where I could do anything like that actually live. Do you know what I mean? It's a totally different way of thinking, and maybe, I don't know, there is some value to this, but this idea like that nobody really cares what you're playing through, I think is mostly true. But I also think people do want to see you play inspired. So if you have certain things that make you play better, or you're able to enjoy the gig more, I think people can tell the difference between a gig where you're actually in the moment or inspired, and a gig where you're struggling with like tone that you don't like in in-ear monitors, or a gig where the sound in the room is just problematic in general. I think audiences and the rest of your band can tell when that's happening, right? Or, you know, gigs where in the UK we often have to play in like a big cavernous space with a sound limiter, and it's like, well, this is not really designed for having a band. I think people can tell the difference then. So to some extent, people don't care what you're playing through. If you're looking like you're having a good time, you are actually having a good time, and you're playing like you're having a good time. And I think to some extent, playing through some of the digital stuff or in IEMs, or whatever can be a little bit of a just getting the job done and trying to do your best in that scenario. Whereas sometimes for me, when I'm just playing with an amplifier and an effect or two, like the cymbal stuff, you can get really inspired by that. And I've also found real inspiration when I was making this video with just the HX effects into a deluxe reverb. This year gigging, my favourite tones that I got was through the Pro Reverb and using a Fractal VP4. But always, the best gigs that I've had experience doing this year have been with a real amp. So for me, a real amp is a more important part of the equation than any of the other stuff, really. You know, if it's got a delay and a reverb on it, that's basically the meat and potatoes of my tones anyway. It's kind of straightforward. I don't know if any of you guys have similar sorts of thoughts about this stuff, like you have maybe excess gear, you know what you really need, but you buy the other stuff anyway and you try the other stuff anyway. And maybe that's something that's actually pretty similar to people that are making gear tube videos, and it's something that I try to think of like from a normal person's point of view rather than someone who's getting sent lots of gear for free. But at the same time, you're probably actually the same. I imagine that a lot of you have a lot of excess gear as well, probably. And compared to like a habit of gambling or something like that, at least we can sell our pedals, right? Anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Cheers for stopping by. And if you want that HX Effects preset that I was using there, your Gumroad's the place to grab that. I think ultimately I could be happy with just the multi-effects. Like an HX Effects is what, $250 I think I might have paid for it used. That could definitely get me through pretty much every scenario, and I'd be happy with it with an amp. HX Stomp equally. Live, there's like 1 or 2 buttons that I would need extra, or pair it with a couple of drive pedals. But ultimately, for a gig, it's actually way less than I have, and pretty straightforward in terms of, right, people just want you to play these parts with roughly the right amount of gain, some delay if it's needed. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments.